I'm getting really excited about our trip coming up. We're going on an epic RV travel trip. We do these about once a year where we go across the country into all different kinds of states, all different kinds of national parks. Last year we did the Pacific Northwest. So we went up to like North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, Washington, Oregon. It was a blast. It was beautiful. Gorgeous, gorgeous places. But this year we're calling it our I-10 trip. Although it's obviously slightly outside of I-10, we are actually going to be headed across. We're going to go through, Louisiana, Texas. We're going to go into like Nevada and New Mexico, all the way over to California. And we're going to go up to the Sequoia National Park. And then we're going to go to Yosemite National Park. We're going to go up to South Lake Tahoe. There's just a bunch of places. We do this big thing. We're gone for several months. So the one thing that I learned about preparing for a trip, or any kind of vacation for that matter, when you're going out of the garden, is you kind of need your plants to be in a stable place before you go. Last year, I thought that direct seeding them was the way to go. And so I tried that, and no, direct seeding and then just leaving was not the way to go. A lot of stuff died. Most stuff didn't make it at all. I don't even know if it sprouted. I wasn't here, so I wasn't even sure if it sprouted. So what I'm doing this year, which is very different, is I'm actually transplanting just about everything. So even things I normally wouldn't transplant, like melons and cucumbers, I'm transplanting those. Because I know that if I can get them past their baby seedling stage and then, into the garden, and then a couple weeks in the garden to make sure that they, kind of hold and they take, that is probably going to give me the best results. I've done that way in the past, or a combination of those ways in the past, and they have worked. Once a plant is in the ground and you give it, I forgot to put blood meal. I was going to say, once you remember to put all the nutrients for it, it should be able to hold its own for a few months while it's growing. So I'm just going to work that into the soil. Normally I put that down into the planting hole, but we forget sometimes as gardeners. So yeah, I'm gonna get the rest of these tomatoes in, and then we have our potatoes to do. So all I have left are these little guys. I think I have one decent sized one, but the rest of them are these little tiny little guys. I put them in a bag and I totally forgot about them. Now, everything I've ever learned about gardening says that you shouldn't plant the tiny of things. Like, so if you have a super small garlic clove, you probably don't want to plant that because you're not going to get the biggest garlic. Or if you have a really small onion start, it's not probably going to produce the largest onion. So I don't have a lot of hope for these guys, but we're gonna put them in, and we're gonna put them in the front one. So when we go to harvest these, it'll be kind of a test. Do little guys or imperfect guys cause you problems compared to the big guys that were really, really well chitted? So, and chitting is the sprouts that come off of the potato, which help it sprout. I don't chit my potatoes normally, but I had a problem with that last fall where I didn't chit them. I put them in, and then we had like significant amounts of rain, and they all rotted in the ground. Not one single plant came up because they need time to create the sprouts, and then the sprouts to, you know, break the surface. And since it rained so much, they got so wet, they basically rotted before a plant was created. So this time, you know, I don't do it for spring, but for fall, I try to make sure that my potatoes are sprouted. So I made these like little furrows, and they're a little too close together. I use my pitchfork because that's really all I have. But I'm not gonna do every single line of the pitchforks. I'm gonna do every other line. And we're gonna put down my favorite, carrot seeds. And it's gonna be this whole bed. Carrot seeds are a little bit of a challenge. They're really not hard to plant. At least I don't think so. They're pretty straightforward, to be honest. You kind of just put down a lot and see what makes it. And then you thin them later, which is kind of the tedious part, not my favorite part. But I love having fresh carrots because there's absolutely nothing like having fresh carrots from the garden. They are outstanding. The hardest part with carrots is getting them to germinate because you really don't want to cover them up. What I've just done creating these little furrows, I'm not going to cover them up with soil. I'm going to cover them up with something else, and that's going to be cardboard. I'm going to water it all down, and then I'm going to put cardboard on top of it to keep the water from evaporating off because we live in a super hot climate here. And once they sprout, which can take a while, I've seen them as soon as a week, and I've seen them as long as 4 weeks. So hopefully it's not 4 weeks. I'm really hoping that they come up before I leave. I didn't get them perfectly covered, but that's okay because I do shy away from planting my carrots on the utmost edge. I usually save this space for flowers or, you know, maybe some radishes or something that can handle it a little bit better. But because I use metal beds, it feels like the edges of the bed dry out faster than the center of the bed. So because of that, I don't put my carrots right up to the edge, and you can clearly see that the cardboard isn't taking up the whole space, and that's okay. As long as we keep it moist and as long as most of it is covered, we should get a good germination rate. So I got all of my seed trays, and these are my favorites. These are the Epic Gardening seed trays. They're just really sturdy. I love them. But I got 12 of them ready to go. I filled them up with a moist soil, so not like super drenched wet, but not dry. Don't start with dry. It's going to give you such a hard time with absorbing water. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to poke tiny little holes in each one of the trays because that's where we're going to put the seeds. I'm planting a bunch of things. It's a little bit last minute, but according to my app that I use, I'll show it to you guys. This is the Seed Time app that I use. Hopefully that you can see that. They have a computer version, and then they have the actual phone mobile version, and then the app. The app doesn't have like all of the features that the computer does, but the one feature it has that I absolutely love is the task list. And I am overdue on my task list. I needed to get broccoli and cauliflower started weeks ago. I kept holding off, and I don't know why. I don't know what I was thinking. I think I just got busy with other things. common gardener thing. But it's getting too late. Like, if I can't get these to sprout and grow large enough that I can transplant them, I'm not going to get any broccoli this year. And that is a horrific thing for me and my family. We love fresh grown broccoli, homegrown broccoli. It is outstanding, and we only get to grow it once a year here, or one season a year. And I do multiple succession plantings, but it's just never enough. So I'm kind of going all in on this. I'm growing a bunch of different varieties, but to test them out. But I'm going with my all-time favorite. I'm also testing out my all-time favorite isn't made anymore. It's the Arcadia broccoli, and it's not really made anymore. It's really hard to find, and most of the seeds are getting really old at this point. So I saved some seeds from them, which is not encouraged because these are hybrids. And I have no idea what I'm going to get, but it's worth a try if you love a plant that much. You do see me putting in a ton of seeds, and that's mainly because I need the best ones, the quickest ones to sprout as quickly as possible and grow as quickly as possible. So I'm kind of throwing everything in there and seeing what happens. So this is how I cover them up. I just kind of barely push some soil on top of it. That's it. Barely. And then we just spray them just in the center. This is already wet soil, but this helps as well. So I'm going to leave these here on my patio under the shade, but it's getting the warmth. It's just not getting very much light, which is okay for all of these. None of these are like flowers that require light to germinate. But the minute that they sprout, and it doesn't even have to be the whole tray, like the minute that like one of these cells has at least 2 or 3 sprouted, they're going to go out onto the deck of my pool where it gets a lot more sun. Those little tiny seedlings, they can handle it. And if you don't get them out there, they are going to very quickly, within probably a day or 2, become leggy, and they really have a hard time overcoming that. So fingers crossed. I think my biggest concern with these guys is that they're going to be very, very small when they go into the garden. And very, very small plants are delicious plants for bugs, especially the slug snails and cutworms that I have in my garden. You know, they're there. You know, I'm leaving them. The birds have been doing a good job picking them off, but they're just not keeping up with it. And I moved to the irrigation for the slugs and the snails, not necessarily the cutworms, but the irrigation of the micro sprayers is helping as well, because it doesn't like completely spray the whole bed. It just sprays one area, and that seems to be cutting it down. But it's just one of the challenges of doing an organic garden. But I'm concerned because these guys are going to be very, very tiny when I put them out, and cutworms absolutely love tiny plants, and so do snails and slugs. So I am going to do my little paper towel holder trick, which is where I take a paper towel, or a toilet paper roll is probably the better one here, and I will stick it over when I pop these out, and I pop them up and out of here. I'll take that whole block and drop it into the center of a toilet paper roll, and then I'll bury that whole thing. That way the collar, it becomes like a collar around the baby plant, in hopes that it deters some of them. It doesn't deter all of them, but cross our fingers, hopefully that works. But now we get to do something fun, which is we need to harvest a bunch of stuff. So anything that's even close, I'm going to get it out and in the house, because I need time to preserve it. I'm not super stoked with my peanuts this year. I have some that are definitely what I think is mature size, and they have the hard shell. And then I have some that are definitely not mature size. Where are they? Like this guy right here. He's still greenish, and he's kind of got a soft shell there. So yeah, I think it's a bust. Now here's the positive. I started out with just a few seeds. Shout outs to Elise with the Urban Harvest. She does this seed kind of, I want to think of them as like a grab bag seed that happens every quarter, where she sends out 9 seeds. And they're specific to Florida. They do well in Florida. because it's kind of like a grab bag thing, you don't get like a significant amount of seeds, but you get some. And so I planted the ones that she gave me. I got like 3 or 4 plants from those seeds. She gave more seeds, it's just they didn't work for me. But this I do with her often. When I'm part of the seed club and she sends us a seed, you know, she sends us sometimes a lot of seeds and sometimes it's small, especially if they're like really unique things. And so this one didn't have a significant amount of seeds. So what I do when that happens is I grow as many plants as I possibly can. And whatever the result is, I will take that season to save the seeds. And so I think what I have here, even though it's not a lot, I think I have enough mature here that I will be able to have a better planting next summer with a much more significant amount of seed. So I'm very excited about that. So we have to take the positives with the negatives sometimes. Even though I didn't have a great germination rate, even though I think I might have pulled the plants too soon, I at least have seed for next year, and I have a whole bunch of new experience when it comes to this particular plant. I might even actually plant a whole bed. That would be fun, I think. This is what a Seminole pumpkin should look like. It's a little bit smaller. Mine tend to be a little bit smaller. I think it has something to do with growing up this palm tree. But this is the right color for harvesting a Seminole pumpkin, but I think I'm gonna grab this one too. Now this one is not that nice, beautiful, deep orange color, but it definitely has some of that orange color already starting. So it's already starting that ripening process. It looks good. The bugs haven't gotten to it. So I'm not going to take my chances. I'm going to go ahead and take this guy. This will cure inside. You don't have to worry about when it comes to Seminole pumpkins. If you pick them slightly green, they will cure inside on your counter. Well, that's a bummer. This keeps happening. I keep losing branches off of my roselle plant, and it's causing pretty significant damage, and I don't even know if this plant's gonna really like make it. I don't know, like I suspect this one, any of these are gonna go next. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take them off. You know, they're causing terrible damage. You know, roselle is one of those plants that just has given me a hard time for forever. It is so easy to grow, but I get to like the 10-yard line and I have issues. So last year, you know, it grew beautifully, and then it got like a disease in the beds when it started to flower, and it flowered terribly. The year before that, I planted a bunch of them, and like a bunch of them died from a hurricane. And I'm like, what is my luck with these roselles? I can grow them so easily, they start so easily, but then I have so many problems. Thankfully, it's just these two up front here that have been having this issue of like breaking their bottom limbs. It's like the tree has become too heavy. Either way, I'm losing a bunch of roselles, but I still have some. So we're gonna harvest these, and we're gonna harvest the lower branches of these and any other ones that are mature enough. I love roselle. I can't believe I continue to have these kinds of issues. Thankfully, it looks like the top part is definitely putting on a lot. So I'm just gonna look for the most mature ones, and we're gonna take those off. I feel like if I can make this tree lighter, it won't be as affected. My other trees are not having this problem. The ones in the back are not having this problem. So it might be that this particular area gets strong enough wind, I guess, that it is causing them problem. Maybe they don't like wind. I didn't really think it got that much wind over here, but it's possible. Let me show you what I'm looking for in one that might be ready. So if you can see this one right here, when you kind of pull the leaves away, you can see that there's still kind of a bit of a gap down there. You can see the swelling of the seed pod on the inside there, but I mean, it's kind of borderline, this one. This one, the leaves are still like wholly over it. And when you kind of pull them aside, you can see like significant gaps. That seed pod hasn't filled all the way out. Whereas something like this one right here, the little petals are all outside and that seed pod is really full inside. honestly, they're edible at any of the stages I just showed you. But if you want to get really, really big ones, you want to wait to harvest them until they are as full as possible. Now, I've harvested them young and it's fine. They taste the same, except when they get bigger, they tend to get significantly bigger. So if you compare one that is fully ripe, mature, to one that is not, you can really see that size difference, right? They're much, much smaller. The seed pod is big in there as well, but honestly, it's these calyxes that are even larger, and you're just getting more bang for your buck. So what I usually do is when I see them at like this stage, I set an alarm on my phone to wait 1 week. When they first flower, if you set your alarm on your phone to go off every 2 weeks to go pick your roselles, you'll be hitting it perfect every single time. And then right next to the roselles, we have our avocado tree, which I am in love with, even though I'm not a huge fan of avocados. I've tried this one and it does taste better than the grocery store one. The one at the grocery store just tastes really, really bland to me. I don't know. I don't really get the reason why people love them so much. But this one has like a citrus taste to it, which I find nice, but I still can't like them. I'm trying. My husband actually absolutely adores them. The neighbors really like them. And so, and I'm saving a couple for my other neighbor. She's out of town right now. So I told her I'm gonna leave all the ones up top for her. So, but the ones here on the bottom, we pick 2 every single week. They're really hard at this stage. So you can't even press them or anything, but you leave them on the counter for a week or 2 and they'll be perfect. And I love the way that you harvest this tree, because most of the time when you harvest like peaches, you have to harvest them all and you got to do something with them. You got to can them. It's not like you can really enjoy them for months and months and months. This guy you can enjoy for like months and months and months. I started picking them off. My first one I picked off, I think in August. Once I could tell that they were like no longer growing, and it ripened on the counter. It did take like 3 weeks, but then I started picking 2 every single week, letting them ripen on the counter. And the minute that we ate one and we had one left, we'd come out and pick 2 more. And then we had this like steady supply of avocados. And if we were gonna be home, I'm pretty sure that this would go all the way until like January is what I hear. It's a really fun fruit to grow if you're into avocados, because it doesn't have to be like harvested and then done some big preservation method. You just come out and pick what you need every week. Kind of like the grocery store. I think that's all we're gonna harvest for today. I hope you had fun hanging out with me, getting ready for the trip, maybe giving you some ideas of how you can get ready for vacation in your garden. Happy gardening, guys.